Hello, John.
Go on.
And today we're going to talk about the government has introduced this new scheme for artists. They're to receive a basic income. It's a pilot study that'll go on for 3 years. It'll finish in 2025, I think. They receive €325 per week. So 9,000 people applied for this, 9,000 artists. 2,000 were picked out of the 9,000. I think it's a very, very positive thing for artists to receive a guaranteed income every week while they write their songs or paint their pictures or do their pottery, whatever they want to do, so that they won't be
Yes,
living in poverty.
that's good. Well, now on that subject, Charlie Haughey, when he was Taoiseach, he introduced uh, good things for writers and people that were writing that were often living on a pittance, hoping to get published. And he started a thing called Ace Donna. I don't know if you recall that Ace Donna, and it was for these artists that they could join this association and they had an income sufficient for them to be able to have their meals and be able to write the books or paint the pictures or whatever it was that they contributed to the overall culture in a positive way. We don't want any of the like of Bram Stoker about Dracula, forget about that kind of stuff. We want something to give us a bit of a jizz and a bit of humor, put a smile in our face, that type of way.
Hmm.
That's what, and so this Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Green Party government has kind of provided this money for those, but I thought they were in receipt of that from the time of Charlie Haughey, but apparently not. I know at the time the Labour Party was against that type of thing, they wouldn't have that vision. They had some other sort of a vision, but Charlie Haughey had the vision. Uh, I'm not aware that this government has such a thing, but I know there's an election next week, and it sounds to me like an election gimmick. It's going to only last for a year, I think. Is that right? On 2025.
No, the
And
pilot
then, Bob, you're up.
the pilot scheme
You can
lasts
swim.
for 3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
So
So I presume they'll be still alive in 3 years' time. They're not all in the final stages of their life. They might be young. So they'll have a few quid for 3 years. And after that, they can kind of do whatever they like. Maybe their family might help them or something. Um, if they're producing good works, but then of course, maybe if they sell them, they might become wealthy. So I think ones that take longer to produce the masterpieces. Don't forget Van Gogh, the famous painter, whose paintings sell for millions, millions. He didn't sell up one painting during his lifetime, except one to his doctor that was attending in O'Vere's Sure was he, where I happened to be one time during the 100th anniversary of his death. And but when he died, suddenly paints become priceless. But he only for his brother Theo, who worked in a bank, supported him. He would have died of starvation. Now, but his brother then lost the job or whatever it was for 6 months, and it was only 6 months after he lost his job that poor Van Gogh suffered some gunshot wounds, not self-inflicted. Apparently, there was a father and a son out shooting, and they wouldn't shoot. He was injured by them, but he was in such probably a desperate state that Dr. Gachet that looked after him in some ways because poor Van Gogh was in a mental institution for a while. Probably you go that way when you're starving. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, he didn't get any financial help except for his brother. So here now the state is giving 300 and odd. Well, you won't go too far with that, like, but if you're living someplace where you're not having to pay rent or something, perhaps some other place that's because like wherever they do their work in a studio or something, I suppose the 325 will help their own thing. I don't know what way they're able to, wherever they're living, what way they're fixed that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
There's more to the story of the 300 and odd money that they get for the next 3 years. I presume it should be getting it for as long as they are in the trade that they're in, and then if they become successful at what they're doing, well, then they won't need that money. They'll have enough of an income from what they're at and producing by way of books or whatever it is.
Yeah, see, this is actually a pilot study over 3 years, and then they're going to evaluate it basically and work from there, you
I
know.
pilot, evaluate it. Well, you know what that means.
Okay.
Rubbish.
The thing about
It's
it,
an election gimmick, in my opinion.
the thing about it is, look, in Ireland, there's 157,000 people on disability. And the problem with artists is sometimes they sink into depression, they suffer from anxiety, they're trying to be artists, yet they're in poverty. So I think this is a very positive scheme. I hope to continue it. It's something that's badly needed for the artists. I think we're going through a renaissance now in Ireland with creativity. If you just go on the streets, you'll see there's all these great young people busking. They really know their stuff. They're playing really well. There's access now to lessons, music lessons online that there wasn't before back in my generation.
That's
So
good, yeah. So there's a lot of talent, and there always was, I think, down the centuries. And don't forget, we were known as the Island of Saints and Scholars. So you don't get that way unless you've got the ability and the training and the education. So this was a marvelous education for people, and when it was Gaelic and the Brehon laws, for example, was one of the best laws that didn't distinguish between men or women. Women had their rights very much under the Brehon laws. So we had a great system of fair play and decency, but of course, being invaded by savages from Britain, we were persecuted. We weren't strong enough by way of an army. We didn't have that ability, but because we were into a different literature and stuff like that. So there's that history there. We don't we can't forget that. And this question of what you're talking about vis-a-vis the few quid that they're getting, they're not getting a fortune. 300, is it 325 or 75?
it's 325 euros per week, but they're allowed work on
Or
top of that if they
25. Well, you
want.
won't go mad on that.
Yeah.
And it might help them. But I hope to have no more expense. Perhaps to have they're able to live where their family is or something like that. Have a studio. It depends, but one hopes that some of them will be successful and then will be self-sufficient and be able to have enough income then that they can sort of won't need the 325 euros. They might have a nice income
As
from their what they produce. But the 3 years sort of, and then evaluate the situation. How are they going to evaluate it? But I can't figure out
okay. So the
what
way the way they evaluate it is they have a control group of 1,000 people, okay, who don't receive the income, 1,000 artists who don't. They're measuring those against 2,000 that do, okay, and then they'll have a survey. They'll carry out a survey. So far, they've carried out the first survey basically, and it's come back very, very positive that these people who are receiving an income every week are performing more work as an artist than they ever were. You know, so it frees up their time. Basically, it means that instead of working, say, a 40-hour week, they can now work a 20-hour week and probably receive their 325 euros artist
that's
grant per week.
good. Yeah. So to have another bit of an income from work and that, and then they're able to devote more time to their artistic pursuits. Well, that's good. And so it sounds a progressive step, but I do put it down to the election kind of thing. I mentioned Charlie High with Ace Donna, and I don't hear much about that lately, but it was a great honour to be in that, and there was a guaranteed income for the various people that was in Ace Donna, and it was nearly it was a great idea that Charlie come up with. Charlie High when he was teaching, he was he had vision for what was required in this country, and he went and did it.
Yeah.
But this crowd that's doing this now, I don't hear any reference to Ace, to based on it, what I was talking about. So you could check into that in due course, and I'm going to check into it myself to see is it still on the go. What Charlie envisaged, it was a great honour, and it was something like the old what we used to have in the country, where all these poets and all the rest of it had guaranteed income. They were much valued.
Hmm. Very good. So there we go. It's more positive news, and that's very good.
It is
Well,
positive news. Good, there's an election coming. That's when you get the good news, isn't it?
it is indeed. Okay. So thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Ottawa. Bye now.
Bye now.